Hey friends, I'm Lindsay Morgan, Nonprofit Resource Specialist at the Community Resource and Vision Center. But my friends call me Birdie, and you can too. Welcome to A Little Birdie Told Me, formerly known as the EnVision Center News Podcast. Around here, we share the good stuff happening in North Idaho nonprofits and philanthropy, the stories behind the work, the people making it happen, and the little things I'm hearing that are making a big difference in our community. So stay tuned for a bird's eye view of the true heart of our community. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Today I have a person who has had a pretty incredible journey from hospitality leadership to nonprofit leadership to now helping other organizations and leaders. So Phil Hough, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lindsay. Great to be here.
Before we dive into this new chapter that you're in, I'd love for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell us about your path and just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, how long do we have?
We can go 30 minutes in your introduction if you'd like, because that'll probably cover everything.
Well,
so whatever.
You've hit the highlights.
Okay, good.
In my adult life, I had a career in the hospitality industry, in hotel sales, catering, and service, working with thousands of convention groups, weddings, all kinds of meetings, any reason people get together. And
Okay.
that was a great portal into the human psychology. And
I bet.
I worked at 4- and 5-star hotels, and so as a 20-something coming out of college, I had the opportunity to meet some of my heroes, Alvin Toffler and other authors who would come and speak at conferences. And you can get very awestruck very quickly, but at the end of the day, you can recognize, too, that people are just people with the same basic needs. And when you're in the hospitality business, catering to those becomes the fundamental thing. And so service to others and helping them achieve their potential was something I started getting trained in early on. And then in the hospitality business, I got a good grounding in business management. Working at major hotel chains, they put you through formal training for sales and presentations and speaking and contract law and human resource issues. And so you learn the fundamentals of how a business works as well as how to cater to people's needs. And of course, formulative for almost everything I've done since was really digging into and learning events from the structure of how they work to the human psychology of how they work. And so learning to set up a good event. I had the great pleasure in the 20 years in the hotel business to become a certified meeting professional, a CMP, and a learning environmental specialist, LES, credentialed. And those were both intensive trainings with a lot of background. You had to have 5 years of experience even just to go through the training programs and then sit for the exams. So those were really wonderful experiences.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Which, was it local or which areas were you getting this experience from?
Oh, that's a great question. So I started my hotel career in Colorado Springs at the Broadmoor Hotel, 5-star, 5-diamond resort, which was just a great introduction to things. And after about 5 years there, my opportunity for advancement was somewhat limited at being an independent hotel, and the people in positions directly above me were not much older than myself, so I was going to have to wait another decade or two before they retired. So I shifted and ended up working for Hyatt Hotels for the better part of about 10 years at some of their flagship properties in Scottsdale, Arizona, and San Francisco, and Lake Tahoe, Monterey, briefly in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So I got a good smattering of city hotels, resort hotels, all at 4-star, 5-star properties. So the clientele was high demand, high expectations. I worked on 3 different presidential visits. Twice Ronald Reagan came to visit the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs.
That's
I was assigned to work on the details of his plans. And then Bill Clinton came to speak in San Francisco. And yeah, it's cool. It's pretty stressful working a presidential visit, I will say. And
I can't imagine
Yeah.
the pressure, right?
yeah, the expectations are high. And then, of course, managing staff expectations around that's pretty high, too. So
Yes.
they were fabulous learning experiences.
Okay. Very good. I hope they weren't learning experiences in the way where something went terribly wrong.
No, nothing went wrong. I mean,
Okay,
that's why
good.
we did it. But in order to manage their visits, you had to do things. A completely sold out hotel had to request, ask guests, convention groups, others to make way and make room. And so when you're talking about people inconveniencing themselves for something of that nature, then you get into the real art of satisfying what their needs are. And so, another way of saying that is ask a major company to move its program somewhere else to accommodate a presidential visit. That can be a lot of stress.
Yeah, no doubt. I can really see how you have truly learned the ins and outs of just human nature through working this way. That makes sense to me.
I also had the great opportunity while I was in Colorado Springs at the Broadmoor to become part of a nonprofit association there, the Colorado-Wyoming Hotel Sales and Marketing Association, which is obviously geared very much towards a specific trade. But as an association, it's a nonprofit. And becoming a board member, I ended up as program chair and vice president for a couple of years. And so it was a great introduction into the nonprofit world as well as the corporate world of meetings.
Okay, yes. I was going to ask about that, about your transition really from in the hospitality business to nonprofit work. And a lot of folks around here will know you from your work with Scotchman's Peak, right?
Right.
And can you tell me about that experience?
Sure. So my wife and I moved here to Bonner County in 2002. And as I was looking around for things to do, I was making a decided break from the hotel career. She was able to telecommute, so we moved here with her job intact and myself searching. And my primary duties for the first couple of years being planning our trips. We're long-distance hikers. That's another aspect of myself and my wife. And so together, we both have hiked the length of the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide, the Appalachian Trail. We've paddled the length of the Yukon River. On a separate original journey before I met her, I hiked the PCT solo. And so when we moved here, I had a few months to start planning some of our trips, and that was my main focus. But during that time, I also volunteered for things, became involved with the local Native Plant Society, and got on the ITS board. And through it, got interested in conservation issues in the area, one of which was forest planning. And there were questions in forest planning revolving around wilderness, and so a group of us got together to form the Friends of Scotchman Peaks Wilderness. It wasn't my first foray into setting up nonprofit groups. In the mid-'90s, while in San Francisco in the hotel business, after my first long hike, I was one of the founding members of the American Long Distance Hiking Association West and served on its board for a while. And so I had some experience through volunteering with setting up nonprofits for All the West and for the Scotchman Peaks group. And then a few years after helping establish the Friends of Scotchman Peaks, myself and several others got together to found the Idaho Trails Association.
Okay.
I'm still active as a member with All the West today, and I'm retired now. We'll flash forward to the hanging question, but after 21 years, I retired from the Friends of Scotchman Peaks at the end of this last March.
Okay.
I'm staying engaged with some volunteer efforts on our legislative work in Montana.
Okay, great.
And with the Idaho Trails Association, I remain on the advisory board. So my interest in building up nonprofits and helping them succeed so that communities can succeed is rooted both back in my professional life in the hotel business as well as my world of volunteer and then professional work in conservation and trails.
Yeah, I could see that. So what is it that drew you to, actually, let me back up for a second, if I may. What drew you to Sandpoint area?
That's
to
a great question. Sure.
That's a good question.
So we moved in 2002, and at that point, Deb and I had hiked the Appalachian Trail together. I had hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, and we were in the planning stages for another hike for me and a first hike for her of the Pacific Crest Trail. Okay. So we had been putting things into storage in San Francisco while we went out on our long-distance hikes. It's very expensive to do that.
I bet.
And it's disruptive to lifestyles, of course, too. And so we were looking for a place to buy a house so that we wouldn't have to put stuff in storage, find a new rental when we got back, and go through those changes each time we took off on a long trip. Housing was very expensive, still is in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And at the time, housing was much less expensive here than it is now. And so we were looking around for a place with her job. She was already telecommuting, so we knew we could move pretty much anywhere there was an internet connection.
Okay.
And so we set filters of we want to be 4 seasons of sports. We want to be near mountains to be hiking in the summer. We want to be near mountains to be skiing in the winter, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. We like paddling. We wanted to be near water. We wanted a smaller town, but something that still had a vibrant cultural scene, good arts, good food and beverage, not too far from a major airport. So really, we didn't realize it at the time, but we were putting in all of the filters that the Sonoran Institute was using when they produced their report on prosperity in the American West in the 21st century,
Okay.
which found all of those factors plus access to public lands, both protected in terms of wilderness and national parks as well as unprotected, as being direct correlations to how communities thrive. And so we're poster children for what they were describing.
Yeah, for sure.
We came here because we could telecommute, we could bring her salary, and we had all these wonderful outdoor amenities, cultural amenities. It was just a fabulous move for us. And so we chose Sandpoint after looking around, having traveled through the American West. We knew pretty much locations that were of interest. And comparing it to some of those others, Sandpoint was just head and shoulders above Moab, Utah, or Bend, Oregon, which were on growth trajectories that were way too fast. And we looked at Whitefish and Kalispell, but again, growth trajectories way too high and more expensive flying in and out of. And so Sandpoint had the right combination of things. We made the move, and the American experience is all about people reinventing themselves. And
I love that.
so that's been true for me. I've reinvented myself several times. We reinvented our lives here, and I reinvented my career from one of 20 years in the hotel business, which I thought I had accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish, gotten all the personal growth out of it I could. And when I moved here, I knew I'd be looking for something else. I didn't know what. I was open to ideas and sort of fell into this world of conservation work. It was so important to the community when I moved here and discovered the Native Plant Society and the work being done with forest planting. I dug into that, and this whole new world opened up, and that became my reinvention. So my second act, as it were, was to help found the Friends of Scotchman Peaks Wilderness and carry forward the prospects for developing community support for a wilderness bill.
Yeah. I've been speaking with other organizations like Trout Unlimited, for example, and they mention, people that really do enjoy the outdoors are likely to protect it and to take care of it.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
very true. And so
Yeah.
it is intuitive that one of the fundamental ways to build support is to get people to experience something. So as we developed our outreach tools for the Friends of Scotchman Peaks, we knew that we wanted people to come out on hikes. So we set up a series of guided hikes in the summer and winter. And then pretty soon we put together a map for people who might not be able to come out on one of our guided hikes but wanted to experience the area. We developed a really stunning slideshow so that if someone couldn't actually come to the Scotchman Peaks and see it, we could bring the Scotchman Peaks to them and they could live vicariously through the slideshow. But getting people to interact with the area and understand and appreciate its values was one way to get them to understand the importance and benefits wilderness could bring to the community.
Oh, for sure, yes.
And hands-on, first-hand experiences are really the most powerful. As we started to grow and mature, and frankly, as it took longer to put together a successful legislative strategy, we wanted to broaden our outreach, and we ended up developing a trail stewardship program to maintain trails. Again, another way of getting people out. People want sometimes to give back a little bit of sweat equity, so they can come out and pull on a crosscut saw or swing a Pulaski and build a trail and have some real pride of ownership. In addition, they get out there and see the area for all of its natural, stunning glory. And then things progressed again. In 2015, there was an unfortunate incident on Scotchman Peak where a mountain goat got its horn behind a hiker's leg, hooked it in, created a big gash in the back. He nearly bled out. And so the trail closed so that the goats and humans could have a little distance from each other. And it was late in the summer, so the trail closed for the winter. And I got together with the district ranger, and we came up with this plan to educate people through our Trail Ambassador program. Again, another way of interacting with people who are out in the area already, but would benefit from a little bit more knowledge about how humans and goats might get along better. So trail ambassadors would hike Scotchman Peak on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays in the summer to talk to people. They weren't law enforcement officers. They weren't there to fine or even scold people with bad behavior, but they were there to help people know that they can do things to minimize their negative interactions with goats, and also to note any problem goats and report them to Idaho Department of Fish and Game for actions they could take, goat hazing, basically.
Okay.
So another way of getting people out and engaged in the area and issues. And then we also put together our Winter Tracks youth education program so we could get school-age kids, primarily elementary school, out in the winter on winter field trips to learn about nature in the winter, since it's one of the seasons that people, I think it's underappreciated, even here locally. We've been doing that since 2015, and annually we'll get out 450 to 550 students from a dozen schools throughout Bonner County, and then in Montana, Sanders and Lincoln County, and that's very hands-on.
Okay. That's a lot of work that you've been doing.
Well,
but
it's
it
not just
doesn't
me.
Feel like work, right?
Yeah, no, it's a joy.
Okay, good.
It
Good.
replenishes the soul, but it takes. And I'm retired, so this is all past tense. But
Sure.
it took at the time a staff of 5 people in the year-round, and plus a summer intern.
Okay.
And an active board of usually 6 or 7 people, and then hundreds of volunteers every year. On an annual basis, we'd have at least 150 to 170 volunteers coming out and doing things. And over a rolling average, any given 3-year period, we had probably about 400 active volunteers. And the organization still does. I shouldn't say that in the past tense.
Right.
It's just my past tense.
Yes, right.
But that's also part of the outreach. By engaging volunteers in the area, again, they are engaged in the outreach efforts themselves. So this is something that creates this critical mass of support for the area, because more and more people understand and appreciate what it takes to maintain those wilderness characteristics through education and through good stewardship.
Sure, yeah. And that's why we live here, right?
Right.
A lot of us, like you said, much like your story of why you chose this area is why we stay here, right?
Yes.
Is our opportunities to interact with the world around us. And it is so stunning and beautiful, and I do love how you said winter's underappreciated.
Yes.
I like that. I'm probably very guilty of that. It's not my favorite, but that's another story probably. But you're right. There's still so much life in winter. Right?
The joys of nature. Again, it's easy to reflect on wilderness and think about the amazing views from the top of Scotchman Peak, and they are, not to diminish those at all.
Right.
But on a snowshoe trip into the Ross Creek Cedars in the dead of winter on a still day, to hear the birds singing when the snow and the cedars are absorbing all other sounds, is to really to amplify the voice of the winter wren. And when you can just feel that strength of the bird who manages to stay throughout the winter. And that bird's just small. It's just a few ounces, but high metabolic rate. And they've got to be searching for food all winter. And so you begin to appreciate what it takes for someone to survive and thrive, and then really appreciate how winter's challenges shape both the nature around us as well as ourselves. And, of course, the solitude. Because in winter, you're going to find more solitude. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
One of the joys of wilderness is solitude.
It's true. Just the way you describe things is so beautiful. I mean, it's like a different podcast right now. It's like we're storytelling with Phil Hough. All right. So you have just recently launched Hough Counseling and Coaching.
Consulting and coaching.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
Counseling.
Okay, you're right. We need to correct that. He's not going to counsel you. Okay. Well, maybe, but like
coaching executive directors is a lot like counseling.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. So please tell me about this.
Yeah. So anyone who knows me well knows that in retirement, I'm not going to sit still, and I'm not going to go to a beach and lie there in the sun. I've got to be somewhat active, and so I am involved in a number of volunteer engagements. I still continue to volunteer at our local radio station and with the Idaho Trails Association. But I wanted to do something more to be able to help continue to build communities. The thing that drives me is building communities. And the work that I did with the Friends of Scotchman Peaks and my other volunteer commitments releases that energy towards really building strong communities. So as I looked at retirement, I wanted to continue to do that and to offer up from some of the experiences I've had, the skills that I've developed, the insights I've developed, and be able to share those with others. I think there's a huge potential here in Bonner County especially, but even in other local counties, to look at the nonprofits we have, and a lot of them are fairly new, and to ensure their long-term stability and sustainability. There are times when an outside set of eyes from a consultant or a coach can help, whether it's looking at underlying business structures from the standpoint of how do you build the organization to be stronger? Does it have the right structural bones? Does it have the best set of bylaws and practices for human resources to attract good talent and retain them? Does it have a vibrant board? Or maybe do they need a little bit of coaching or training? Is there strategic vision in need of a tune-up? Maybe they're so young they haven't even really developed a good strategic plan. And so having someone come in and help with some of the planning, organizational structure can be of great value. It's a lonely life, too, as an ED. A new ED is often someone who's passionate about the topic. They might not have had any business, managerial, executive background, and now they're thrust into an area where they need not only the skill set to do those things, they need to develop the personal strength to reflect on what drives them so they can really align themselves mission-wise with the work they're doing. So that's where coaching comes in. So I think I know I can offer valuable insights both into consulting with the organizations and coaching the individuals that lead them, whether they're the executive directors or senior leadership or board members.
Yeah, you have described what it's like working for nonprofits pretty well, I would say.
I've done that. So
I would say.
Yeah, I know where
because you've been there, done that. It sounds like you do have that understanding and the experience that you can bring to these conversations. Your tagline is strong leaders, strong organizations, stronger communities. Can you talk about what that means to you? And you kind of have mentioned some.
Yeah, I think it all begins with the individual. And when I look at leadership growth or becoming the best possible selves for our organizations, it's not just about developing managerial skills, although it can help with that too. It's really managing ourselves. And so how we train ourselves to become present and open and centered in any given situation. So we're not rattled by the constant barrage of things that could distract us or lead us astray emotionally so we can't stay focused on the work. So a lot of the opportunity for leadership growth comes with working within ourselves, and that helps sometimes to have a guide. So it begins with building strong individuals, resilience, strength, looking at how we become more open and centered and trained in terms of our attention on ourselves and our work. And then building strong organizations, again, is partly looking at the fundamental structures, but how do the humans interact? How do people go from one person leading a nonprofit, a strong leader, to now they've got talent around them they've attracted. They've got board members who are passionate but maybe need some guidance, or they've got staff, and now there's interrelationships to be trained or looked at. How do you bring all those together into a strategic vision, into a framework that works together? How do you align everybody into the same direction forward? And how do you do that both with the organization's impact in mind as well as the impact on the individuals? Because again, we want to build these individuals through this process. And if we build individuals, we build strong organizations. And as we build strong organizations, we have a strong community. Strong communities really come from each other. I mean, it takes the community all working together towards common causes.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. But I think that's probably why it is so important, the work that you're doing is, getting on that ground level, because you do risk losing sight of the mission, losing funding, or even there's just a lot to risk when a nonprofit mission doesn't succeed, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
There's a lot at risk for not just the organization. If the organization's starting to falter, then also the impact they're having on the community is going to be diminished, and that's going to leave a gaping hole.
Yeah,
But
right.
I would come back to, so oftentimes we, as communities, we depend on nonprofits that are small, that are passion driven, and that individual who's behind that uh, needs to really be able to have a sounding board. It's a lonely job. I can tell you, having done it
Mm.
in the early years, especially when there's no staff around, and even with the support from the board, they're not there every day during the work that's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ED is faced, he or her, with the challenge of answering all of these questions and addressing all of the challenges that come up.
Mm-hmm.
And so having someone there that they can use as a sounding board, and having someone there who can help say, no, this is okay, you got this, that can be a very important thing. So that's part of the coaching, which is sometimes sort of like counseling, yes.
Oh, yes. I have no doubt, especially with clients like me, I'm sure. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing in this work, in the
Sure.
nonprofit leadership? What are some of the biggest challenges?
I think we face today, and this has always been true to a degree, but I think today we face the convergence of a number of societal stressors. COVID was not that
Mm.
long ago. We're only 6 years on, and it's changed the world in so many ways that we're still adapting, and people aren't even aware of that. And so they're reacting rather than building by design programs that are sustainable given the stressors that still remain from COVID. We're still trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last couple of years have been a very challenging time for nonprofits, with dramatic shifts, whether you view them as positive or negative, in the approach our federal government has taken to both funding and addressing their structural relationship to the nonprofit world. It's required nonprofits to change the way they're doing things. Again,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's from the standpoint of funding sources or connections they've made, or reliance on information that's coming out, they've had to address those shifts and changes. So I'm not sure that most people were prepared for that, and again are dealing with it mostly in a reactive mode, and so much is constantly changing that you just barely get caught up with the last one when the next one comes at you. They don't have time to breathe, pause, step back and look at, is there a way to do it better or differently? Can we use this opportunity to actually strengthen ourselves in some way?
Mm.
That's the creative side of things, but we don't really get to exercise that creative side until we learn to stop, breathe, not react to that immediate stress, but instead build in something else. And so that's where someone guiding or helping individuals develop that skill set, develop that mindset, can be of great value to that individual and then to that organization, and of course to the community at large.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, how do leaders or organizations get involved in the kind of work that you're doing?
sure. They can find me very easily
Oh, good.
at philiphough.com. That's PHILIPHOUGH.com. If you Google me, you'll find me. If you Google Philip Hough Consulting and Coaching, very easily find me.
Good.
And chances are, if you're listening to this or watching this, you probably know me. Just pick up the phone and give me a call. I'm
You're a
happy
friendly
to talk
guy.
I'm happy to talk to anyone and see if it's a good fit and see if there's something I can do for you.
Very good. Okay, I'm glad that it's easy.
Yeah, it's very easy.
No, that's so good.
Yeah. The initial conversation is free. I'm always happy to
Oh, that's
consult with
nice.
someone and just see if there's something that can be done that's a really easy fix.
Okay. So, why does this work matter so much to you personally, do you think?
My personal mission is, again, I want to build strong communities.
Mm.
And the reason for that is I want to live in a strong community. It's,
Yeah.
to me, much more gratifying, and I will get a lot more out of life here in Sandpoint if I look around and the community is as vibrant and strong as it possibly could be. And I know I can be a part of that. I don't want to wait, sit back, and expect others to do that. I want to be part of it. I know I can be part of it. So that's what keeps me going forward with this, even in retirement. I've had the opportunity during my work career to talk with a number of colleagues informally, and I'd like to think that those conversations have been helpful to them. I've had a number of mentors who have offered up their experiences, and that's been helpful for me. And so, what I'd like to do now is look at that informal way of passing on knowledge or shaping our lives and making it a little bit more formal so that it's right out there and available to more than just the folks I might casually come in contact with.
Sure. It seems like this is such a natural journey in your life. It seems like you've been able to move really intuitively and really thought things through.
It does.
Where it's purposeful.
Yeah, one of the things, I'm probably an overthinker and overplanner. It came from years in the hotel business of planning. And oftentimes when I was at the hotels I mentioned earlier, we were making initial plans for meetings for convention groups, booking dates 10, 15, 20 years out.
Oh, wow.
And so the idea of planning into the future is something that's been ingrained in me from early on in my career. And of course, developing an outreach strategy and a legislative strategy to move wilderness forward, you've got to be thinking several cycles out. And so planning something that's come naturally. And so as I was looking at retirement and thinking about doing what do I want to do next, and this thought came up, I bounced it off several people and they thought, oh, of course, yeah, no, that's a natural. And so there was confirmation back that, yeah, it's the natural path and it felt right. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt, I might be wrong, but some sage person about 100 years ago, and I'm paraphrasing them, said that once you announce it to the world conspires to make it happen.
Oh,
and so putting it out there as an intention was also my way of building up that reinforcing loop that makes things happen. It makes us more intentional. And so I think if there's one bit of free advice we could offer right here, it's to approach everything with intent. And if we set an intent, set a vision, we train our intention to the moment, then we can really help build ourselves, our organizations, and our communities.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
Thanks for parting that with us. So what other projects, or do you have other projects or anything else that you'd like to mention?
Oh, sure. As I said, I like to keep busy. And,
yes.
There are a couple of other things that I've been waiting to do because they really need some focused time. And I'm right now in the research phase of writing a biography on Franklin B. Hough, who was my great-great-grandfather.
Okay.
But more importantly, Franklin B. Hough was the father of American forestry. His career was active from the 1840s to 1880s, and he laid out the foundational principles for the practice of forestry in America today. He was a fascinating individual, and I could go on and on here, but he wrote in his lifetime over 48 books, and I'd say countless articles, except there is a good bibliography published at the time of his passing. The bibliography of all of his written works takes 33 pages. And so there's a lot of material. This was at a time way before the internet.
Sure.
And even before the typewriter.
Okay.
And so all of his correspondence, his diaries, letters, journals, essays, writings are in long-form cursive hand script, old ink on paper of various qualities. And they're housed in several special manuscript collections. I've just started going through and went back east to Albany to go through the main collection at the New York State Library. It's 117 boxes of writings. And so I'm sorting through those now to try to get a better sense of what drove him and put the connections together that will make a book interesting. But I figure it'll be about a 2-year research project and then another year or two of writing. So in 3 or 4 years, we'll have a book out on Franklin B. Hough that is missing from the canon of literature of great American thinkers of the era.
Well, we better fix that. I'm looking
That's
forward
my
to
intention.
that.
Yes.
And I'm sure you'll do it justice. Yeah. And really, if that's your lineage,
it's special
pretty
too for
testament.
obvious reasons.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
So if nothing else comes out of it, I'll have had a fun couple of years really digging into someone who was instrumental in my past, and I do think something will come out of it. I don't abuse myself with the idea that this is going to be a bestseller. It is somewhat of a niche audience, but there are people out there. Professional foresters all know who he is. They just don't know very much about the rest of him. And if you were in New York and appreciate the Adirondacks, he was one of the primary drivers to create the Adirondack State Park. And so there's a lot of people who are very invested in the Adirondacks that know who he is again, but they don't know much else about him. And so this book's really meant to connect the dots between two main legacies that he built. And put a big picture view on his life, his work, what drove him.
That's really great. I'm really looking forward to that. And really just seeing everything else that you put your hand on because you are so inspirational, really.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming here and sharing your journey with us.
My pleasure.
And I can't wait to see how this unfolds for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, friends, thanks for listening. I'll be back soon with more of the good news, but in the meantime, you can keep up with us on Facebook, Instagram, and at crecIdaho.com. Until next time.